to episode 6 of the Women Writing Intentionally show with Jenny Alberti and Tracey Rampling Brown. Join us as we talk all things writing and publishing, from insider secrets to our own author journeys. We are committed to providing a safe platform for women to share their stories, knowledge, and truth without judgment, criticism, or betrayal. By coming together in the genuine spirit of collaboration, we provide opportunities for growth, healing, and transformation that benefit all women, authors and readers alike. Our vision is to help our authors intentionally build an aligned legacy and portfolio that supports their vision as a woman, human being, and business owner. So thank you once again for joining us here on the show. Today we are going to be talking about the behind the scenes sneak peek at launching a book and actually publishing it out into the world, and what it's like to run a bestseller campaign. So Jenny, you had an amazing week last week. Do you want to tell everybody what happened?
I did have an amazing week, particularly on Friday. So Quiet and Badass launched on Amazon on Friday, and we hit bestseller status in multiple categories in multiple countries, and it was pretty badass. Yes.
It was pretty badass. And so there were some really exciting things that happened on launch day. But before we dive into how much fun it was and what it was like to actually hit #1 international bestseller in 3 countries, how about we rewind the process just a little bit and talk about what it took to actually get to the point that you were ready to birth that book into the world. So would you like to share a little bit about what it takes to actually get a book from the draft, from the manuscript, to actually being ready to tell the world all about it?
It takes a lot. And it's kind of funny because you don't really think that it does. You think that you write it and then you publish it, right? But there's so many different stages and so many different layers, and being able to really understand how to put together a successful day on launch day in the first place, that took, my authors and I were planning that 6 weeks ago. So aside from the writing part and aside from the editing and all of that kind of stuff that they had to do, we had to do collectively, there was also this massive amount of work that we put into, our launch strategy, and putting together, each one of us individually putting together a launch list, and really talking about the fact that this was going to happen several weeks before we were even prepared to do it. And there was a lot of behind the scenes for every one of us. So we have talked before about the launch strategy and being able to, kind of monetize that. But before that, just the Amazon bestseller campaign, really understanding who's on your team and who's going to support you on that day, gathering that information, and then understanding what to do with that information. So each one of the 18 of us had to go to work 6 weeks ago in being able to make Friday a successful day. So, yeah.
And this is actually a strategy that you teach, isn't it? So if you are an indie publisher out there and you are looking to help your authors put together a successful launch strategy, Jenny does have an incredible process for that, like she just said, takes 6 weeks to help your authors put together an incredible strategy to help build that launch list. And part of the reason that Jenny uses the strategy that she does, which we've talked about before, is so that you can close the leverage gap, because Amazon doesn't give you the sales data of like who is buying your book. And so part of Jenny's strategy, because we've talked about this in a previous episode, is that it is designed to help make sure that the authors themselves are finding out who in their networks actually is buying the book and really giving them opportunities to keep in contact with those people as well. So it's actually part of a much larger strategy overall, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the launch list and the launch strategy. It is like it kills two birds with one stone, really, because you want to make sure that people are supporting you on launch day, and you want to make sure that they're going out there and buying the book on Amazon. But then on the same note, you also want to make sure that you can leverage that, right? Because you're not collecting that information, or Amazon's not going to give you that information. So you don't really know who buys the book. So you have to understand, like, you have these multiple different moving parts for being able to monetize the book on your own, but you also want to drive traffic to Amazon on that day so that you can, move the amount of units that you need to move. So it really does and did take 6 weeks. It was kind of hard to see how, I think for the authors, it was hard to see how it would come together so far in advance. But then when it happened, they were so prepared for it. Like Terry with her 200 names, like she was so prepared for that day. And then on that day, she was just able to go to work. So that's kind of the position that, I put all the authors in, was to be able on launch day just to know exactly what they needed to do, because they've done all this work leading up to that day. So
let's talk a little bit then about some of the other things. So aside from your authors actually leveraging their launch lists and their networks, there were some other parts to that about how you can leverage your network. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes like, what is that? The 7 degrees of separation, right? Like, you have your audience, and, if you're the publisher or whatever, the author, you have your audience. Like, who is in your audience that's going to support you? Who's on your launch team? Who's on your launch list, right? But then you may have people on that launch team or launch list that are just going to purchase the book. Right? Cool. We need that, right? 100%. We need people to say, yes, I'm going to support you on launch day. I'm going to buy that book. Send me the link. Cool. But who else is in that audience that is willing to do more for you? Like, who is going to be your cheerleader? Who is going to be posting? Who is going to be sharing? Who is going to be talking about it? Who is going to be, in your comments saying, I purchased the book, right? And then they are actually exposing their audience to your book, which, yes.
So we actually had something really exciting happen where
you couldn't even wait to get to this. Just say it. Just go.
So
go for it.
So I posted on social media because I was super excited, and because Jenny hadn't actually hit number 1 yet. She was sitting in number 2 position, right next to Denise Duffield Thomas's Chill and Prosper. And for those of you who've watched our episodes before, you'll know that I am a huge Denise Duffield Thomas fan. I talk about her all the time. And so I wrote this post. You can't see all of it, but you can see that I actually tagged Denise Duffield Thomas in this post with us side by side. Now, the super awesome part about this was that Denise Duffield Thomas then actually commented on my post and was like, oh my God, that is so cool. And I was like, yes, they're amazing. I know they're excited to be seen next to you on the bookshelf. And she was like, I'm going to get a copy. Like, oh my God, talk about launch goals. Denise Duffield Thomas bought a copy of Quiet and Badass because I tagged her in the post.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then just like moving backwards, right? Like you are on my support team, like you're my cheerleader. So you went and did that for me, and then she responded, and then yeah, so it's a matter of like leveraging in every angle, every degree. So there was more people that are in my audience that helped out. And yes, Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. So yeah, so this is it's not just the people that are Amanda, it's not just the people that are going to directly purchase the book, but also, you know, who's going to be talking about it on your behalf. And when you think of a book of, you know, 18 to I had 18, but you know, 20 people, and everybody's doing that, the results are going to speak for themselves as long as you have those strategies in place.
Yeah. And I think I really just want to touch on here for a second that just circling back to Denise Duffield Thomas, it wasn't just that Denise bought a copy of the book, which was super freaking awesome, like total publishing goals. But what also happened was, because I'd posted it, there were a number of people that liked the post and then also reached out to me that came from Denise's audience. Because she had commented on my post, it meant that people in her audience actually saw that she had commented on my post. They saw my post and then they were kind of like, oh, well, Denise has bought a copy, like maybe I should buy a copy too. So in terms of leveraging, that was like a really huge, amazing thing that happened. And then not only, so we were sitting in number 2, and when I say we, I mean Jenny. I can't help it. Like I feel like it was such an awesome win. That we actually ended up hitting not just, okay, so like the category that we were in was women in business, and that was where the first screenshot was. Jenny and her team actually managed to eclipse Chill and Prosper, even though you can see that Chill and Prosper was also on sale for like $2.69. So it was like on massive sale at the exact same time as us. And we still managed to take out that number 1 spot. In fact, we kind of yo-yoed with Chill and Prosper over the next 24 hours. But it didn't stop there. And this is part of the having a really good launch strategy and team, was that we then took out the parent categories. So not only did we do business, women in business, we then took out the category above that, which was business biographies and primers. And you can see we're in there with some other amazing books, including Amanda Francis's Rich as Fuck, which is an amazing book and everybody should read that too. And then we took out the parent category of business and investing. And I really, really, really want to stress here that taking out a category, the number 1 bestseller in business and investing, is actually really huge, because this category encompasses not just women in business, not just biographies and primers, but it is accounting, it is consulting, it is leadership, it is management, it is like organizational behavior. It is like every single category that is under business and investing. And we were the number 1 book. Jenny and her authors were the number 1 for the whole of business and investing, which is a really, really freaking huge deal. So I'm just saying, leveraging your audience and your networks and everything really can be absolutely critical to getting phenomenal results.
Yeah, even just continuing to post like throughout the day, because not everybody's going to see whatever you post, and tagging people, and like it goes a long way, especially on Facebook, because like how you were talking about, when Denise commented, like everybody, that's how Facebook works. Like people know like when that happens. So, and people are nosy. So people want to know what it is that she was commenting on. So yeah, it goes a long way being able to tap into other people's networks, even if it is just Facebook, but there's so many other ways too, like all the other different platforms and the other different, email lists and whatever everybody uses, being able to tap into all of that on that day. I sent email blasts and to who was in my network, and so did some of the other ladies and some of the other authors. So it all feeds into the success of launch day.
Yeah. And I mean, there are two different things that happen when you are launching a book. There are two different things. So there's the bestseller lists, which we were just talking about. And so Jenny took out #1 bestseller in Women in Business and got that nice little orange sticker on the
It's so
page.
pretty.
But
Yeah.
there's also this other one where it says like #1 new release in spirituality. So there are two types of lists. There is the bestseller list and there is the hot new release list. And so you can actually make it onto the hot new release list and become a #1 hot new release, even if you don't necessarily make it to the top of the bestseller list. But I also really want to say here, like, we are sharing the amazing #1 bestseller wins that we had, but there were also some other positions that we achieved that weren't #1s, but were really freaking amazing because of the other books that were on the shelves surrounding us.
Until we hit like bestseller, that was a win in and of itself, because to be on a digital bookshelf next to Brene Brown and to Denise Duffield Thomas and just some of these authors that I know that not only myself but the rest of the authors in the book, like, we admire, and our book is next to them. Like, it's a massive win, so before hitting bestseller, it was just like, that was surreal to begin with. And everybody was extremely happy that happened, just to be able to see that.
Yeah, so you can see
Yep.
we were right there next to the gifts of imperfection, also master your emotions. Like there
I
were
mean, psycho cybernetics, like that's insane too. Like that is a book that is like timeless, and you're in the position right above it. It's like crazy.
Yeah, so I really want to just really stress here that making it onto the bestseller list, like Amazon publishes the top 100 bestsellers, right? And if you make it into the top 100, that is a freaking achievement. Like, full stop. If you make
Yeah.
it onto that bestseller list, no matter whether you make it to #1 or not, like that is a total win. And I feel like some of those other ones where we hit categories that were like 3s and 4s and 6s and 20s and things like that was still absolutely huge. Like at one stage, Quiet and Badass was sitting at number 97 for the whole Amazon Kindle store. Like, not just the business and investing category, but the whole Amazon Kindle store. It was number 97. Like, That's a number I would take. Like 97 for the whole store is freaking amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like think of how many books are in there. Like,
Hundreds of thousands, millions of books. Literally, not even exaggerating.
yeah. Yeah, it's so much focus is on the bestseller and the best number one bestseller, and that's amazing, right? But yeah, exactly what you said. It's a massive accomplishment, that these women, their words are next to some of these people, and that the book in total is sitting in that position. Um, that's just yeah, I'm still like kind of in shock about it because it's one thing for me, right? It's one thing for me to have gone through this as an author in other multi-author book projects, but it's another for me to be on this side of it and to be so closely involved with the numbers and understanding what's happening rather than filtered information.
Hmm.
Like, right? Like I could actually see everything and know what was going on. But yeah, it's huge.
I think it really increases the anticipation. Don't you feel like being on the
Mhm.
back end of it and actually having access to all the data and then being able to actually like give it out and keep the team morale high
Mhm.
and keep everyone excited is actually it's completely next level.
Yeah, and it keeps everybody else, it keeps all the authors and it keeps the authors' audiences engaged too, which, that's something for us to talk about because providing that information and providing the updates, like I had some of my authors who were glued to all of the Amazon stores, like checking the positions, like they had all their tabs open, right?
I
And
think
they were glued to it. Like I'm like, okay, well, I guess I don't really need to do anything. Like my authors are just gonna do this. Like,
and you guys had like a really exciting moment together, didn't you?
yes, yeah. We were doing our celebration call, and Jennifer, one of the authors, um, she had her eye on Canada because we were really close. We were number 3, I think, and then she was like, "Oh, I think it's like on the hour. I think it's time to check." And then she checked, and then yeah, it had hit number 1, and which was cool for Nicole because Nicole was our solo Canadian author, and yeah, it was cool to celebrate that and for her that's her home country, and for it to hit while we were all there and all together, that was really fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, Nicole's kids even got in on the action, didn't they?
Mhm. Yeah, they like dogpiled her. It was awesome.
And I think that's one of the things that's really just incredible about this process is when you are able to create an environment and a container where everybody can come together and celebrate and really like track these things real time. Because I know you and I have both been in launches before where there has been really amazing information given out, and then others where there has been almost no information given out, where launch day is really like a bit of a nothing.
Mm,
um, and you're kind of sitting there and you're like, where's the information? Like, that's one of the things that I used to do. Is like, I was glued to Amazon. I was taking screenshots. I was like tracking how we were going like across the global stores because I wanted to know, because for me it was all about the anticipation and seeing all of the things happening. And I was just like desperate to find out how
yeah.
things were going. And I found that in a couple of the containers I was in, there just wasn't that flow of information. And so I know that's something you and I have talked about personally before, about how important it is to keep the team high vibe, because
Yeah.
it really, like, it completely changes everything.
Absolutely, especially when, the authors are being updated and they're excited and they want the next update, right? Like what what's going to happen next, right? But then they put that information out there, and that's another marketing piece. Like every update is a marketing piece, right? Like then it goes out to their audience, and then it's the same kind of layered trickle effect when, your launch team then catches on and posts that, and then, it just keeps the energy and the vibe high and the excitement high throughout the entire day. And like it could have been stressful. Like launch day could have been stressful, but it wasn't. It was fun and it was easy.
So I just want to circle back to what you were saying about how everything is a leverage and marketing up, like all the updates are. And that was the thing. Like I noticed that your authors were posting constantly, like every time a new screenshot was shared, every time, and where they were like, oh my God, guys, we're sitting on number 3 in Canada. Like everybody, like who do we know in Canada? Can you guys go and buy a copy of our book? And so people were tagging their friends who were in Canada and being like, hey, this book's coming out. Like, can you go and check it out? Or, oh my goodness, I remember the US was really close for a while. We sat on number 2 for so long.
Yeah.
It was like, everyone was just like, when is it going to hit number 1?
Wait, it's so long. We're talking about what, a couple of hours in the grand scheme of things?
It felt like a lifetime.
Right. As things do.
As they do. But it was, again, that opportunity for everyone to be contacting their audiences and saying, guys, we're so close. Like, can you please support us and can you do the things? But again, you were saying like launch day was easy and fun. It wasn't stressful. Like it was exhausting, but it was very high vibe. It was very fun and it felt super aligned and super successful. But it doesn't stop at launch day, does it?
No, it's not. It's not even remotely close to done.
Like even over the whole weekend, the team continued to post. They were talking about like, go and buy our book. But now the conversation is shifting as well and talking about, hey guys, if you've had a chance to read the book and you loved it, would you mind going and leaving a review for us? And like it's the tone and the message has changed, but it's not kind of like, oh, well, like we made number 1, so now we just never have to talk about the book again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like different stages. So now that people have had a chance to purchase it and download it, and then we start getting feedback from people like, oh my gosh, I read the first however many chapters, or I read the whole book. One of my authors, Beth, her friend, messaged her today and said that she read the whole book in 2 days and that she just absolutely loved it. And so when that starts to happen, it's like, okay, now it's time to start talking about how do we get this information about how much it has impacted people. How do we get that out into the world, right? So then it shifts to getting reviews and having people say that this is a great book and that somebody else should purchase it. Yeah, it's not launch it out, grab your bestseller badge and then be done.
Yeah. And I mean, we say that kind of tongue in cheek, except for the fact that like we know that there are some publishers out there where, and not necessarily like within the group of our, like our circle of colleagues and things like that, but there are plenty of vanity publishers and hybrid publishers that are really just in it 100% to pump and dump, right? Yeah. And it's not about actually creating longevity for the book or ongoing visibility. It's about get the authors in, write the book, publish the book, and then move on to the next book. And, you sometimes see that where there's a particular series that we have seen before that's on Amazon, and they're up to something like volume 10 or volume 12 or something of the same. They don't even think up new titles for their books, honestly. It's like, who's who in, real estate, volume 25? And can you not think of a new title for your book? But also, like, it's insane because, I forget who it was, somebody in my network actually did one of those books. And she's like, and I never talk about it. I never even tell anybody that I published a book. But it was one of those things where she was drawn into doing that book by the lure of getting the bestseller title, the bestseller badge, because it's nice to have, right? It's like a prestige thing. However, in my opinion, and I know, Jenny, you feel very similar to this, it's not actually just about signing up for any book. It's about signing up for the right books. It is about signing up with publishers who believe what you believe, because it's about creating, as we said in the intro, an aligned portfolio and legacy, right? So it's really important, super important, to actually be intentional about the kinds of books that you join, the kinds of book projects that you join, and find publishers who also are invested in your success. And, Jenny and I are very passionate about that, but we also know there are a number of publishers that we know. And I'd like to just give a shout out to Bridget Sisko. She is amazing. And her thing about publishing is very much about helping her authors to leverage the book well past launch day as well. And, it really shows in the caliber of authors that we end up attracting into our books, because it's that level of trust that, that we care for them, that we love them, that we are invested in their success. And that shows so super clearly in the way that your authors responded on launch day and their reactions afterwards, and the way that they play together, right? The way that they tag each other and comment on each other's posts.
They
and
love each other. Yeah.
They interview each other on their podcasts, and they go live together, and it's all about community, right?
Yep. And that, and that kind of speaks to, I think, why launch day was so fun too, is because there was this massive community and everybody really wanted everybody to succeed. And it just, the entire vibe and the entire motivation behind the whole thing was just to, empower each other's voices. And really, they all wanted each other to heal whatever they were healing too, which was also a massive part about this. So I just wanted real quick to circle back. You had mentioned about other publishers and experiences about people just kind of, after hitting bestseller, just it's done. Since my authors have had a different experience than that, they've known, a few of them have known other people that have gone through that experience of, they got into whatever multi-author book or whatnot with a publisher, and nothing came of it, or it wasn't a great launch, or they didn't have that community, or whatever it is. I've had people reach out to me like, can we do this over? Like, can you help me do this again? And I mean, it's pretty cool. But also it points out that this is a real thing, that this is actually happening in the industry, where people are getting lured in to become bestsellers, and then that's it,
Mhm.
not actually making that book become anything that's going to leave a legacy. And, there's only so far that you can really take having the number one bestseller badge. And it's more so about the longevity of that legacy.
Mm. I actually have a girlfriend who is also part of the monology community who had done a multi-author book with a publisher, and she actually commented to me about how completely different my experience from what she could see just from my social posts was compared to hers, because there was no sense of community through the process, like even pre-launching. It was kind of like, this is when your chapter's due, submit it by this date. And then it got published and there was no launch strategy, there was no community, there was nothing. And she was kind of left feeling deflated, like the whole thing was just a bit of a letdown. And it really broke my heart because I knew it didn't have to be like that.
Yeah, and something that you and I have identified before is like loving every stage of the process and celebrating every stage. And like, yeah, like celebrate the fact that you are making new connections and that you have this community. Um, Celebrate the fact that, your chapter has been submitted. Celebrate the fact that, all of these different things go into that experience being what it is, and go into, it's like baking a cake. It goes into the success on launch day. And then now that launch day is over, now we move into the next stage. And each stage builds on the next one. So it's a shame that there is those kind of, I mean, you wouldn't even really call it a container. It's just a thing. But it is a shame that exists. But that's why you and I are here.
It is. So before we wrap up, I would just like to share some words that one of the purchasers of Quiet and Badass did leave for us on Amazon, did leave for Jenny and her team. So if you have purchased a copy of the book and you loved it, and you would like to leave some feedback, we highly recommend it. If you haven't picked up your copy yet, click on the, or like not click on the link, but use the link
There's the link.
in the ticker tape below and grab your copy. It is only 99 cents at the moment, but the price will be going up. But these are some of the absolutely beautiful words that were left for Jenny. It says, these are real stories of heroic change makers. Not in some grand public way. No, that's not how change is affected. They do it in small ways every day from their position in the world and without seeking credit or reward. It's not easy. It's not glamorous. They have to sort through the clamor of external voices and expectations dictating how to behave, what to say, and who to be in order to go along to get along, and then learn to quiet those external voices to discover their own authentic being. We need to be sharing more women's stories like these.
It's such a beautiful review. Like, I love
And
that. Yeah.
it made me so happy to see that. And I look forward to seeing all of the other amazing reviews that come through for Quiet and Badass over the coming days and weeks. But this isn't the end of the process, as you mentioned, because the paperback version will be coming out when?
Mid-November.
Mid-November. So then it will be like another launch all over again. And this is part
Yeah.
of the fun, the ongoing fun of writing and creating books and putting things out into the world. So, Jenny, do you have any final thoughts you want to share with everybody?
I just want to thank everybody, honestly, that that has in any way reached out to me or has commented or has congratulated any one of my authors, because I truly do support. I truly do appreciate the support, like beyond words. So that's the only thing that I want to say is a from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. It really truly does take a village to publish a book and launch a book and sell a book and love a book. So thank you to everybody who has been a part of this launch. And like I said, if you haven't managed to pick up a copy yet, the link is in the ticker tape at the bottom of this video. And if you did buy a copy of the book, please consider leaving a review for Jenny and her authors, because it really is the best thank you gift you can give, because it allows other new readers, new people to the audience actually gauge whether it is a valuable book to read or not. And so your words and your thoughts and your feelings about the book really can create a ripple effect and an impact. So thank you for being a part of our village. And we are so super excited to have you guys here with us week after week. Next week, we will be, I'm not even sure what we're talking about next week, to be honest. It's just been,
we'll figure it out.
It's been so busy and just a whirlwind here that we are still recovering from all of the things. So we'll be back next week. I will be updating everybody with our topic because we just got a bit swept away in the launch. So I hope you enjoyed the tips here. If you do have any comments, please do feel free, if you're catching the replay, and drop us some comments and let us know what you thought, or if you have any feedback for us, and we would love to get back to you. So loads of love, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place, 2 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Central Europe.